Hunting a pocket battleship. The North Atlantic was a steel-gray wilderness, endless and cold. In November 1939, the Royal Navy destroyer HMS Valiant sliced through the waves with urgency. Word had come through from naval intelligence. A German pocket battleship had been spotted preying on Allied convoys. Her name was Kriegstern, a heavily armed commerce raider designed to punch above her weight, and she had already sunk 6 merchant vessels in a week. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Hale stood on the bridge, his eyes locked on the horizon. At 34, he was young for command, with a kind of calculated calm born from years of hunting submarines during the early days of the war. But this was different. The Kriegstern wasn't a U-boat. She had speed, armor, and the guns of a much larger ship. Engaging her would be suicide, unless they had an edge. "Captain," said Ensign Blake, approaching with a report. "Signal from Admiralty. Convoy L-27 is 2 days out. They suspect the Kriegstern will strike again." Marcus studied the map. L-27 would pass near the Greenland-Iceland Gap, a perfect hunting ground for a raider. He felt a twist in his gut. It wasn't just strategy. He had a personal stake in this hunt. His brother, Julian, served aboard one of the merchant vessels already lost to the Kriegstern. His last transmission: "Smoke on the horizon. Something big. Plot an intercept course," Marcus ordered. "We'll make a stand at the Narrows." 2 days later, fog clung to the water like ghosts of the dead. The convoy moved slowly, merchant ships vulnerable in a tight column. Valiant shadowed them, sonar pinging into the deep like a pulse of dread. Suddenly, a lookout's cry cut through the mist. "Ship on the starboard quarter." Marcus grabbed his binoculars. Out of the haze loomed a silhouette, sleek, angular, unmistakably German. The Kriegstern. Red alert. All stations to battle readiness. The destroyer's deck came alive, crew scrambling to battle stations, the air buzzing with tension. The German vessel didn't open fire immediately. It was as though she wanted to be seen. A predator toying with her prey. "She's not engaging," Blake said. "Why?" Marcus frowned. "She wants to draw us out." And then it happened. A second explosion rocked the convoy, this time from the rear. Another ship. Another pocket battleship? No. That wasn't possible. Marcus realized the horrifying truth. Kriegstern had deployed a decoy. The real raider had flanked them from the other side. He had been outmaneuvered. "Hard to port. Bring us between the convoy and that second contact." The Valiant surged forward, her guns now firing in desperation. Explosions lit up the fog like distant lightning. Marcus felt the deck shudder beneath him. "We can't match their firepower," Blake shouted. Marcus gritted his teeth. "We don't need to match it. We need to survive it long enough to signal reinforcements." Down in the engine room, Chief Engineer Rosa Eldridge worked furiously. A quiet genius with a talent for keeping dying ships alive, Rosa had spent the last 6 months turning the Valiant into a ghost ship, silent, fast, and full of nasty tricks. Now, as the Kriegstern bore down on them, she turned to her assistant. "Engage the smoke screen generator. Prepare to cut power to non-essential systems. We're going dark." Back on the bridge, the lights flickered. "What's happening?" Blake asked. Marcus smiled grimly. "Rosa's plan. We're about to become invisible." The Valiant vanished into her own smoke screen. For 5 tense minutes, the destroyer ran cold, sonar silent, every man aboard holding his breath. Then Rosa's voice crackled through the comms. "She's close. Bearing 089. 10 seconds to portside contact. Fire torpedoes," Marcus ordered. The torpedo tubes hissed. Moments later, a deafening explosion rocked the sea. A cheer erupted. Through the thinning smoke, the stern of the Kriegstern listed, her engines in flames. But the victory was short-lived. "Captain," Blake pointed. "Second contact approaching, fast." "Another battleship." "No, not another." The Kriegstern was still afloat. What they had struck was a decoy frigate, a supply ship disguised with false plating and weapons. The real threat was coming in now, guns blazing. The destroyer shook violently as shells slammed into her hull. The forward turret exploded, sending 2 crewmen overboard. "Damage to port engine," someone yelled. Marcus knew they couldn't survive another hit. And yet, he stood still, strangely calm. "Blake, how many torpedoes left?" 2. He looked at the map, the narrow channel they had entered, the thin ice floes breaking across the water. An idea struck him, a mad one. Plot a course directly between those ice floes. "Sir, we'll run shallow. The Kriegstern is too heavy. She'll either chase us and run aground, or back off and lose her prey." Rosa came over the comms again, bruised and coughing. "This'll fry the engines for good." Marcus nodded. "Just keep us afloat long enough." The final chase was apocalyptic. The Valiant, half-crippled, weaving through an icy labyrinth. Behind her, the Kriegstern thundered in pursuit, firing with increasing desperation. But Marcus had timed it perfectly. With a lurch, the Valiant darted through a narrow gap between 2 icebergs. The Kriegstern, too large and too fast, tried to follow. There was a sound like the earth splitting open. The German ship struck an underwater shelf. Her hull tore open. A plume of fire and steel erupted skyward. Silence fell across the sea. Marcus exhaled. Blake whispered, "We did it." "No," Marcus said quietly, staring at the burning wreckage. "We survived it. There's a difference." 2 days later, Valiant limped into Scapa Flow, her deck scarred, her crew hollow-eyed, but alive. The Admiralty hailed Marcus as a hero. Commendations were written. The name Kriegstern was crossed off the kill list. But in his quarters, Marcus stared at a crumpled letter in his hand. It was the last message Julian had sent. Just 5 words. "She's coming. Don't blink." Marcus never did again.